Okay, great. All right, Dan. So I'm going to put us back on the page where I can see just you and I. So I want to share with everybody as we are getting started, and I told Dan that I would share this. We are on a slight lag. So Dan and I are talking, and we are talking on Zoom, and then it is translating to Facebook Live. So we won't be able to see your reactions right away, but we will get notifications via other means so that we can get your questions. We're going to go ahead and get started. Dan, thank you so much for being here to talk with us today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you could join us.
I'm home anyway, so you got me.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, safe at home.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be one of our themes. How do we stay safe?
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of those ways. Someone said, will you be interviewing Dan in person?
That's not a thing we do anymore.
So.
What are you talking about?
I was like, no, not today, but maybe some other day. That we did talk in person within the last month, honestly, which is strange to think about.
Yeah, it seems like a lifetime ago. Today I listened to an episode that Terry Gross recorded of Fresh Air from, I think, last Thursday. And she said it was the first episode she's recording from her house.
Wow.
That's instead of going into the studio now. So everybody's doing it.
Yeah, Terry seems behind. The Daily started that, I feel like weeks ago, wearing gloves and spraying.
Yeah.
You know, Terry's committed. Well, so this is a good opportunity to share a little bit of information about our purpose in talking today. I shared some questions with Dan ahead of time, but this is more of an organic conversation, and we want people to send their questions in. And again, we will engage with those questions as we receive them. This is a space so that we can share information about ways to connect with our community safely and thoughtfully, and that goes not just for this time of crisis and challenge, but beyond. So we're hoping that there'll be an element of hope that will run through our conversations. But today we're going to talk a little bit about local businesses, about sustaining our local business during this time, about what local business could look like in the future. And, Dan, given your background, I know that we'll be talking about the restaurant industry. So for our viewers who don't know as much about you as I do, would you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Dan Wu. I'm owner and chef of Atomic Ramen. It feels weird to say owner of Atomic Ramen because there's a little asterisk there, and the asterisk goes to that we've been closed now for about just over 2 weeks, actually. We were out at the Summit at Fritz Farm, standalone fast casual counter service restaurant, and then we were also operating out of the 90 on UK's campus dining hall, feeding hundreds and hundreds of students every day. Both of those operations have come to a screeching halt, along with lots of my colleagues in the food industry.
And it seems like many of your colleagues and you have also sprung into action, figuring out how can we work together and form coalitions, how can we feed people differently and also take care of our employees and each other. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the initiatives that have been happening?
Sure.
And who you've been working with?
Yeah, I think as restaurateurs, business owners, entrepreneurs, we are not the type of people to sit on our hands, and we are not the type of people to receive defeat or inactivity very well. We're always wanting to do something. So the first thing we did, and I think everybody's feeling this, time feels like it's stretched to infinity, because I keep thinking I've been doing these projects for the last year, and it's literally been a few weeks. So we started off with a group of really creative people. Kaylor Slagle from Branded 78, which is a marketing company. Lotta Swan, owner of Great Bagel. Sam Four of Tuk Tuk's Sri Lankan Bites. Also Flo and Daniel from Whiskey Bear. So originally we started a project we were thinking about all the different restaurants that were having to close and kind of not having a revenue stream for a while. And we were thinking about gift cards as an idea to sustain them for a while. So we started a project called Lex Unite, lexunite.com,
Mm-hmm.
where we basically centralized all of the gift card sales for all these different restaurants. And now it's really grown to dozens, if not over 100 businesses on there, now also including non-food places, services, nail salons, hair places, retail stores. And we created this great video that featured a bunch of Lexington's favorite food people, just kind of making a call to action and letting people know that we need help right now.
Mm-hmm.
That idea was conceived of on a Friday, and we launched it on a Wednesday afternoon. So
It was a great video.
yeah,
And
it was a lot of fun.
yeah, and so how have you seen that project change? That sounds like that was kind of step one, right?
Yeah,
Then what?
absolutely. So we got that launched, and I think as creative people, we were immediately restless and thinking like, what's the next step? What's the next thing we can do? And the next thing we realized was that a lot of restaurants right now are struggling to stay in business by offering delivery, by doing curbside service, just bending over backwards, doing online sales. People who have never done online sales, people who generally don't even do to go.
Mm-hmm.
They're all kind of struggling to survive, and realizing a lot of them, including myself, were closing, laying off our workers, shutting our doors, no revenue. Uh, and I think it's been unanimous over every person I've talked to in my industry. The first thing that we're worried about is our employees. What are our employees going to do? Aside from pointing them towards unemployment. So we started thinking about, let's start a program to feed people. And while we were working on this program, Sam Four got in contact with the Lee Initiative, which started off in Louisville, started by Chef Edward Lee, who has restaurants in Louisville and DC. And he had started a thing called the Restaurant Workers Relief Program, literally maybe a week or two before we started working on this. And we ended up getting a grant, getting money from their program. They're generously funded by Maker's Mark. So if you want to look at it as a franchise model almost, that we're the Lee Initiative Lexington outpost, we operate independently. It's all our own, all the organizers are volunteers. We have some paid staff. We have a lot of volunteered staff. And we turned the Great Bagel on Boston Road into a feeding center where every night, we started this past Thursday, every night, 5 to 7, we are feeding people affected by what's happening in the restaurant hospitality industry. But we won't turn anybody away. If you don't work in that industry, we will still feed you. We will still give you supplies. We've been handing out tons of diapers and toilet paper, cleaning supplies, soap, cans of food, all kinds of stuff. So it feels like this whirlwind of a lifetime ago, but this operation that we've been doing was literally been 5 days. And then starting yesterday, Monday, we've also partnered with UK Dining and Aramark, who are cooking the bulk of our food now for us, and generously donating their time and effort to this project as well, so we can better redirect our resources towards household goods and also towards extending the mission, because we want this thing to run as long as we can run it, and we don't know how long the need is going to be there and how long we're supposed to be here, but we're going, and we're not going to stop anytime soon.
So tell me a little bit more about the scope of that project in Lexington so that we can get an even more robust sense of how many people you're feeding. What does that look like when you're saying, we're bringing a lot of people together, there's a high need? How many people are working behind the scenes to make that happen, just about, and how many people are coming to seek the service?
Yeah, we got the okay. I think we got basically approved for the money from Lee Initiative on a Saturday. We got the money deposited to us on a Sunday, and we were up and running on a Thursday. And so imagine kind of opening a restaurant with 4 days notice is kind of what we did. And the team has been like tremendous, particularly Lotta and Robert Swan over at Great Bagel, basically turning their entire business over to this effort. Paid staff, we only have on any given day, I think 2 or 3, and then a handful of volunteers. They're in there all day cooking. A lot of our food so far, almost all of our food has been donated from Creation Gardens, which is a local produce vendor, a regional produce vendor who had, with the downturn hitting everybody, they had tons of perishable food. And instead of letting it go to waste, they immediately called everybody in the area and said, who needs 30 truckloads of produce?
Wow.
So it went out to, Catholic Action and God's Pantry and Food Chain to us, and we immediately put it to use. So it's been, the whole thing feels like a crazy, like guerrilla operation, but it's people who know what they're doing, people who are passionate, giving all of their time and effort. And it's been crazy, but it's been also like really affirming in how impactful and how fast we got together. In terms of the number of people we're feeding, our targets right now are between 200 and 300, and we're definitely seeing over 200 meals a night going out. We're still looking at those numbers every night, and our needs for household items keep shifting. Apparently, the other day it was size 5 and 6 diapers.
Okay.
And cleaning supplies. There's still a lot of things in the grocery stores that are hard to find, like cleaning supplies, like wipes, like paper towels, things like that. So people have been donating those. We've been going out and buying them. So it's very interesting because I think small business owners are really good at being nimble and adapting and pivoting really fast. We're a very quick machine. So when we see the needs changing and shifting, we immediately change and shift with it and say, okay, we need more diapers now and not paper towels or whatever it is, and we'll do whatever needs to be done.
And it sounds like you all are translating your skills really quickly and putting them into action. And if there are people who want to help support this initiative, how can they get involved, and what would be the top 3 ways to get involved or to dedicate themselves?
Yeah, the 3 things we need are financial donations. You can go to leeinitiative.org. You can donate any amount of money. Any amount of money is helpful to us, and you can earmark it specifically for Lexington, and that'll make sure it comes to our operation. We need donations of goods. So anything from, if you're a restaurant or a caterer, we need like disposable containers, like to-go containers and cups and bowls, things like that. But we also need household supplies like diapers, like paper towels, like canned food, like baby food, tampons, all kinds of stuff like that. If you have any of that stuff, bring it to Great Bagel any day between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. And then the third thing is volunteers, particularly bilingual or Spanish-speaking volunteers, because we're seeing that need growing as well. And volunteers do need to have a food handler's permit, which is only like $20. You can get it online because we will be handling food. And then people who want to volunteer can either go to lexunite.com or find me on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. I'm kind of helping organize the volunteers. So yeah, those are the 3 things we need, and we've been getting a good amount of it, but we definitely can always use more.
Great, good. Now, I was thinking about our conversation about a month ago, and we were talking about local business and creativity and being involved with your community. And we had talked about the folks at Great Bagel, which was interesting. And so this coalition and this initiative that you all have been a part of, has that changed your perspective about local business or about partnerships or possibilities beyond?
It hasn't changed my attitude or outlook on these things. I've always been very positive and optimistic about this industry and this just business community. The people that I've encountered have all been really amazing, really connected to the community. They're not just about trying to make a buck for their business, but they really want to give back. They really have great ethical practices, and it's very collaborative. So it does not surprise me in the least that this thing came together this fast. And it literally was like, hey, who wants to do this? Okay, can you put in the time? Okay, let's go. So the thing that I've been wanting to talk about, and I really want to talk to some of my fellow restaurateurs about, and I haven't been able to have this conversation because most of us are still busy and
Mhm.
busy trying to survive and trying to outlast this thing. Um, I'm curious as to what the landscape of dining and hospitality and restaurants will be, not just in Lexington, but nationally. I read, I think it was a New York Times article that interviewed David Chang, and he basically said, without significant help from the federal government, the restaurant industry as a whole is not going to make it, particularly the independent part of it. That the only people with deep enough pockets to survive this will be the McDonald's and the Applebee's and the franchises, which is a horrible thing to think about. You know what I mean? Our culture, our food, our community is very much built up of small independent businesses, many of them run by women, people of color, immigrants. You know, it's part of what makes our culture so rich. And to lose that and just look out over a landscape of Denny's and Waffle House and Applebee's and Taco Bell is horrifying to me. So, but my question and my hope is, having seen the kind of collaboration and cooperation that I've had with other owners, and then seeing this need that's popped up, and this need's not new, you know, places like God's Pantry and Food Chain have been serving this need for forever. This need is suddenly amplified. And I think this whole crisis has really, excuse me, highlighted the fragility of the hospitality and restaurant industry, of how close to the edge we all are. So it makes me want to think about, like, what's the new model? What's the new thing that we can do? Because if this is, for me, this is an opportunity for reinvention. So what's the new thing? Is it a restaurant where we cook food and sell food and that's all we do? Or is it something tied in with the community? Is it something nonprofit? Is it something where we collaborate? Is it like a food hall where we share costs and share, resources? I don't know, but the possibilities seem to have really opened up.
It sounds like some of what you are talking about involves a hybrid model.
Mm.
So socially responsible business that involves different parts of the community and supporting different parts of the community as part of selling food, making food, and sharing culture. But also, it sounds like we need support in those initiatives, not just from individuals who decide to dedicate their capital by buying food, but by institutions or by governmental support that says this is important.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, absolutely. I think my favorite local businesses have always been those that are connected with the community, that give back in various ways. But I think, this whole situation makes me think even beyond, outside the, okay, we have, ethical hiring practices or ethical sourcing practices, and we give back a portion of our sales to various communities, or we do fundraisers for them. But is there another thing that you can do that's where your business is fully integrated into the community, where maybe even your mission is tied into that in some way? And like I said, I don't have the answers. I don't know what that looks like, but the possibilities seem open to me, and that's kind of exciting, actually.
I love that idea. And it continues what we are learning. And we already knew, in a way, and that we talked about in this last conversation, the interconnectedness of all of these industries and us as individuals. And how do we weave a tighter safety net, right? So what could that look like? And how could we innovate, learning some of what we are starting to learn as, you're talking about some of the initiatives that you're a part of right now with the Lee initiatives and the coalitions. How do we expand that and make it stronger?
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It very much is. Yeah. It, for me, I got a little glint of optimism today because I started reading more about the SBA loans that have been approved by the federal government that just got approved.
Share a little bit more about that in case people don't know, if you can.
Yeah, sure. So I think the I forget what the acronym stands for, but it's called CARES. And don't fully quote me on this. This is my understanding of it. That you can apply for a small business administration loan, and if you spend that money on rent, healthcare for your workers, payroll for your workers, utilities, those items will be you don't have to pay them back.
Okay.
So essentially, it's a loan with a little asterisk that says if you spend on these essential things, it's essentially a grant. Now, if you're spending the money on expanding your business or opening a second location or buying equipment, those are still going to be loan money that you have to pay back.
Okay.
So the idea behind this is it's an injection of revenue, or it's an injection of money, finances into small businesses to keep them afloat until we can fully be back up and running again. Because a lot of businesses are like mine that are 100% closed. All my workers are laid off. And then some places have cut their staff by 90%, are running a bare bones menu, bare bones operation, cutting their hours, and their sales are obviously, 40, 30, 20% of what they should be. So they're barely, I wouldn't even say they're surviving. They're eking by. So if this infusion of money can keep workers paid, keep your rent paid, keep your lights on until this thing passes, and I honestly believe it'll be at least 2 months, if not longer, if not through the summer, before we see daylight. So that gives me a little bit of optimism in that when we do see daylight, we won't have spent any of our own whatever little reserve capital that some of us have, and we'll be able to restart. Even that restart, it's not like time freezes and then we go right back to normal. I mean, for me alone, let's say in 6 months, if I'm to reopen, I got to get all my people hired back. A lot of them may not return because they have other jobs or other situations. So I have to hire new people. I have to train new people. I have to buy all new disposables because I've sold all those off. I have to fill all of my coolers and all of my food. So there's kind of a restartup cost for us. It's not quite like opening a new business, but it's a cost. And, a lot of us won't have that. So this, I think, goes quite a ways into helping us. Bashir also a few days ago or last week has approved unemployment benefits for self-employed people. So somebody like me, that's my own boss in the old system, would not have been able to get unemployment, and now I can, which is great. So there's been a lot of these sort of things coming down that will be helping workers and helping small businesses. And but the honest truth is we need more. We need more of it than that. This $1,200 check coming down to people is a Band-Aid on an arm that's getting sawed off. We need a lot more help than that to get by.
And this is small scale, but we have some questions that people have sent in about what can individuals in our community do. Another this is a Band-Aid, but if enough individuals help with the process, what if people say, I want to keep my favorite local businesses open, or if I want to try some new ones that I thought, I would get to go out to and I never have gotten to go. I think some people have said, is takeout safe? Or can you speak a little bit to some of those fears, or how much of a difference does it make for people if we continue, or gift cards, like what are things that people could do as individuals?
Yeah, so on that safety issue, everything that I've read from reputable sources and the CDC have basically said, by and large, delivery and takeout food is safe. There are no known cases of coronavirus being transmitted via food, via ingesting food, or via containers or household objects that you got your food from a delivery situation. I can't get into all the science of it, but basically the biggest way that this thing is transmitting is by being around other people. So picking up delivery, getting that one handoff, or they, put it on the counter and you grab it, or they come out curbside to your car and hand it to you. It's very much safe. Here, I had made an Instagram post the other day saying, like, on the bright side, here are some, sort of funny, unexpected bright sides of this whole situation. And I asked other people to send in theirs. And Jeff Newman, owner of Blue Door Smokehouse, he wrote, not feeling guilty about eating out every night.
Okay.
I think that's great. I am actually, as a person, I don't eat out that much.
Right.
But in the past couple of weeks, I've made a concerted effort to go out every couple of days and get takeout or get, delivery from somebody I like. I've had people ask me, like, what businesses should I support? I said, doesn't matter. Pick your favorite, pick the place that you like to go to anyway, and just give them more of your money. I think everybody should be doing what they can do. I'm not asking people who are broke to go out and eat every night, right? But if you are somebody that eats out 3 nights a week, then go get takeout 3 nights a week. You know what I mean? Like, we still need you right now. If you're the type that your date night is every Friday night at whatever restaurant where you drop $60, drop $60 in takeout, or buy a $60 gift card from that business.
Mm-hmm.
We absolutely still need you. One thing we don't need is we don't need Yelp reviews right now.
Okay.
I've heard some of my
Yelp reviews.
I've heard some of my, I mean, don't get me started on Yelp. That's a whole nother conversation. But I've heard restaurant friends say that they've seen people leaving like bad reviews of the takeout and the delivery service that are happening right now. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, people are fighting for their survival. Like, you can save your vitriol and your attitude for another time.
Right.
Like, really.
Yeah, and as you said, some of these are restaurants that have had to really change their systems in order to adapt, and are tweaking that process on a daily and hourly basis. And and so it's like, how do we have empathy for their process too? And we have some questions that are coming in from people who are watching. I want to make sure to address them because they're going back to some things that we were talking about earlier. So we had some questions about if people are volunteering for the Lee Initiative or Lex Unite, how are volunteers being kept safe? Do they have personal protective gear? Are there needs for that? So those are some questions that have come in.
Yeah, so these all of these things are very much rapidly evolving, and they're things we're thinking about on a daily basis. So right now, everybody who is working in the place, everybody's gloved up. There's hand washing, and I will say this much: as a restaurant industry person, we were already on top of the hand washing all the time, just as good practice. So we're still on top of that. There's glove use and handling everything. And I believe, and I think we just got a shipment of donated N95 face shields, face masks in. So everybody who is handling food and taking it out to clients or to people will be wearing those. The science is still a little bit out on what the efficacy of those masks and who should be wearing them, but we're at the point of A, better safe than sorry, and B, there's a certain level of like a public perception thing as well, to at least show people that we're doing everything we absolutely can. There is social distancing happening in the kitchen, in the dining room, in the whole process. Like, literally, people who are cooking are not standing more than, closer than 6 feet from each other. So we're trying to put all of those things in practice as well, because the last thing we want is to be trying to do some good and then causing some harm by getting people sick.
Yeah. Thank you. I want to see if and people can keep sending questions into us. They're being sent on along to me. So if you have follow-up questions as we're wrapping up our conversation, please send them our way. I want to make sure to address those. So another question that I have for you, Dan, is, do you think that there's something that makes Lexington special or is setting Lexington apart at this time? I know you pay attention to chefs and you pay attention to cities all across the nation. And you have contacts who I'm sure are sharing what they're doing. Is there something that either Lexington is doing well or that you think we have the potential to do better as we're thinking about local restaurants and local businesses and just the future?
Yeah, I think this kind of situation in particular very often brings out the best and worst in people. Um, but for me, like I've always been very much a booster and a proponent and a fan of Lexington. I won't say always. Let me actually say this. So I grew up in Lexington. I went to school here from about sixth grade through college at UK. And as a 23-year-old, person wanted to see the world, I was like, Lexington is old and there's nothing going on here and it's slow. I lived a combined 9 years in San Francisco and New York. And then I moved back after I had a kid. And my first year back, I was kind of insufferable because I would be comparing everything to New York and San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a while to realize, like, you don't compare Lexington to New York and San Francisco. They're very different beasts. And I've gotten to the point now where I wouldn't rather be anywhere else because we're the perfect sort of combination of big city and small town. We're big enough for interesting things to be happening,
Mm-hmm.
for a certain level of culture to be thriving and a certain level of diversity and inclusiveness. But we're small enough where you can still make waves if you try. You can still make a difference if you try. I can't imagine trying to stand out in New York City or LA or Chicago and places like that. The level of competitiveness, the level of just high rents and crazy business competition, all that stuff. So here, you're able to make a mark. And if you put yourself out there and you root yourself in the community and show that you care and you're actually active and doing stuff, you get repaid in spades. People appreciate it, they understand it, and they reach out and they connect with you. I can't tell you how many people in the past month have reached out to me, everything from friends I haven't talked to in forever
Mm-hmm.
to just random Instagram followers that I don't even know, reaching out and saying, hey, I'm seeing the stuff you're doing. I don't know how I can help. I'm a real estate agent. I don't know if that's helpful to you, but I can at least come volunteer, or where do I donate $20? Just people coming out of the woodwork. And it's been really, really heartening to see everybody wanting to help in this situation. So yeah, is Lexington better than any other city? Yeah, sure. Yeah. I'll say yes. I mean, this is where I live, and I genuinely do love this town, and I love this town for the people.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's we're on the same page there.
for sure.
People show up and they celebrate what you're doing, and that's really meaningful. And you can build really important businesses and community organizations and
Yeah, the fact that Lex Unite and our Lee Initiative thing both came together in under a week, just from a handful of people, tells you something. And this much I'll say: the team that I've been working with have been amazing. But if they suddenly disappeared off the face of the earth, I can find 4 or 5 other people just as great that would be just as great at doing this, that would put this operation together just as fast. And I can do that over and over and over again in this town because there's so many people who are just like good at what they do and passionate and willing to put themselves out there. It's really humbling.
thank you, Dan. I think that's a great note to end on.
There you go.
I really appreciate you sharing quite a bit about your experiences and about what you're doing now and some of your thoughts about the future. And I appreciate your time and energy.
Yeah.
And if there are other